Tip number 2 for submitting to the Genesis and Frasier contests. The one big thing that I would suggest beyond, as the first video said, reading the fine print, is really taking the time to go over your entries, but realizing at a certain point you can edit too much. A certain point you're going to read the same line over and over and over again thinking, oh, there's a better way that I could write that. There is a better twist of a phrase. But the thing is if you're constantly trying to find a better word, a better way of saying something, the story is going to come across sounding like you tried too hard. So, of course, the first time, which, for most of us is our rough draft, at least for me, it's my rough draft. It's the very first time I wrote it, it's raw. But it's my voice. It's my story idea on the page. So what I have to do now is I have to refine the story idea. I have to make it stronger. I have to make it tighter. I have to bring out all the story elements of Story World, getting to know these characters. What is the lie they believe? What is their greatest dream? And I have to hint at all of these elements in the very first chapter, 15 to 20 pages. And for a contest, especially the Frasier, when you're given such a limited amount of space, be judicious in the words that you use and the choices that you make. Don't make a choice just because, oh, it sounds pretty. I was just reading a lecture packet from Margie Lawson, who, by the way, as a side comment, if you have a little extra money that you can put towards your writing, put it into classes from Margie Lawson. And I'll talk more about that on some other post. But she was saying, there was a quote in there, that when your writing starts sounding like writing, cut it. So if your first 15 pages sound awesome, but they're stilted, cut it and start over. At a certain point, you can edit yourself into a corner. So take a look around the Writer's Alley for the writing tips on editing and characterization. Look around the Genesis page. Now, while that page doesn't have as much editorial advice, it'll give you a good idea on which category you're entering, and if you make it a finalist, who's going to be reading your story. Well, if it's going to be, say, Dave Long from Bethany House, well, what's Dave editing right now? And look into that. If it's Natasha Kern as an agent and she's reading your suspense or science fiction entries, then what is she currently representing and what is she currently selling and what does she like to read? Now, and you can't base your story around who's going to be judging your book, but it gives you a better idea on, if my story is sounding like writing, are they going to like my book? No, the answer is no. So you have to take your story and you have to make it about your characters. They have to be your core. Figure out who these characters are, discover who they are, and start telling their story. Jump into the middle of the action, leave while the action is still hot and raring to go, and keep writing, but don't make it writerly. If you're writing to where, oh, I think that sounds really neat, but your characters wouldn't say it, cut it.